Welcome everyone. Today we're going to dive in to how you can build a stronger team culture in today's changing work environment. So as I mentioned, this webinar is being recorded, so you'll be sent a link to the recording today after the webinar. You can replay it at any time. Everybody is going to be on mute, so please enter any questions that you have in the Q&A box, and we'll get to those at the end. So as I mentioned, my name is Melissa, and today we're super fortunate to have our good friend Walt from Shipt here today to share more about their employee experience strategy. Shipt is a customer of ours, and I actually worked really closely with Walt when we were first partnering together on their strategy. So I'm super excited to have him here today. Welcome, Walt.
Hey, thanks, Melissa. As you know, everyone should know we are huge fans of Coolleaf, so happy to be here today.
Great. And here is our agenda for today. So we're going to get started by talking about the Great Resignation and what it means for employers. Why do employees leave and what can we do to retain them? Then we'll dive into how Shipt put some of those strategies into action. And finally, we have a free resource that we're going to share with all of you at the end that'll help kickstart your retention efforts. So be sure to stick around to learn more about that, and then we'll have a few minutes for Q&A. But before we dive in, I wanted to share a quick introduction to what we do here at Coolleaf. Coolleaf's experience platform helps companies to engage with, recognize, and reward their people. Using Coolleaf, you can enable your employees to give shout outs to one another for living core values and going above and beyond. What really makes Coolleaf unique is the way that we partner with our customers to develop an ongoing strategy for employee experience. So employee experience isn't just a one-time effort, but it's really something that we see as evolving and growing over time. So Coolleaf helps you maintain engagement through ongoing programming and a strategy that involves virtual events to bring team members together, challenges that align with your goals. So we create things like step challenges, healthy eating challenges, and photo sharing challenges to help teammates really get to know one another and connect. And we also help with pulse surveys so that you can measure your organization's efforts around things like health and wellness, diversity and inclusion, or learning and development. And all of this is incentivized with reward points that employees can then redeem for prizes like gift cards, charity donations, or experiences in your custom catalog. So by now you've probably heard about this phrase, which is what we're calling the Great Resignation, right? So more than 27 million people left their jobs between January and May of this year, and the vast majority of them left voluntarily. And right now, 95% of workers are actually thinking about quitting their jobs. So what's driving this? So a lot of people think that the main reason employees leave is really about compensation. And yes, that certainly is a big part of it, but the pandemic has really caused many people to reevaluate their needs both professionally and personally. And things like remote work flexibility, company culture, and learning and development are just becoming much more important than they used to be to people. And what we found through our research is that while pay is obviously very important, it really matters less than you might think. So in this survey from Gallup, about 22% of employees left their jobs because of pay, but about a third of employees actually left because of lack of opportunities to learn, grow, and advance. And general work environment is also a big factor, as you'll see, which means that treating employees with that compassion and respect and really making them feel welcomed and included really does matter. And then you'll see that flexibility is also really important because it really drives that better work-life balance and stronger personal well-being too. So the big takeaway here is that compensation is really just one part of the picture. So over 75% of these factors are things that managers and people leaders can really influence and use to drive retention. And I also want to point out that what many of these things go back to is employee engagement, which is where a lot of organizations really miss the mark. So it's super impactful. And a survey of over 50,000 employees found that engaged employees are 87% less likely to leave a company. So what all of this really comes down to is that you can't take your top talent for granted. If you want people to stay at your company, you need to make sure that you're meeting their needs, listening to their feedback, and really getting them engaged in your company's mission and values. So how can organizations boost retention for all of their employees? We've identified these 4 drivers of an engaged workplace that most modern employers often overlook. So first, are you giving employees real-time recognition for their hard work? And are you celebrating milestones like work anniversaries? And this is super important for millennials and Generation Z especially. And then are you taking active steps to build that strong culture that's inclusive of all employees, whether they're remote or in person, and really speaks to their personal values? Then are you strategically listening to employees and using that feedback to take action? And finally, are you offering opportunities for career development and upskilling within your organization? So all of these things working together can really contribute to a strong employee experience. And these are all things that Coolleaf can be really beneficial for. So now we're going to go and share some examples of how Shipt really put these drivers into place in their partnership with Coolleaf. So let's turn this over to Walt. Walt, can you start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself and about Shipt?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks again, Melissa, for having me. My name is Walt Till. My pronouns are he, him, and I've been at Shipt for almost 3 years now. My role is Director of Employee Experience, which at Shipt covers everything from employee engagement to training and development and some change management and communications work. Throughout my career, I've worked as an individual contributor in each of these spaces, eventually leading teams doing these things. And I just feel so thankful for that. It's so rewarding to be able to help people and the business at the same time. And so I'm sure if you're on this call, you identify with that. A little bit about Shipt. If you're not familiar, Shipt began in Birmingham, Alabama back in 2014 as a grocery delivery service. We were acquired by Target in 2018, expanded nationwide. And now today we offer same day, next hour delivery of just about anything from household goods to pet supplies, electronics. We deliver it all from both nationwide and local retailers. Our HQ teams are located largely in Birmingham and San Francisco with some remote team workers as well. But as many of you are, right now, everyone is working remotely during the pandemic.
Yeah, the pandemic has really redefined how, where, and when we work. So I'd like to know, how has the last year and a half really impacted your approach to employee appreciation at Shipt? Oh, sorry, we're not getting to employee appreciation yet. How has your how's that affected your employee experience overall at Shipt?
Yeah, absolutely, like a crazy shift that happened overnight, right? I think that's not unique to Shipt, but I just remember a quick story, like in the South, we get these scares of snow and we like freak out and we run home and kids get out of school and people at the North laugh at us because they're like, it's a light dusting. But that's what it felt like. I remember it was Monday, March 16th, my girlfriend's birthday, and we all went home to like work from home for like a day or maybe a week or two at most. And it's crazy to know that now we're still sitting here. It's August 2021 and I'm still at home. So for Shipt though, the pandemic was a bit of a silver lining. Our order volume went through the roof. It was just like exponential growth like we've never seen. So not only was everyone working from home in this new like fully remote environment, but workload increased exponentially for our teams. And at first that's really exciting. But then over time it wears on you and you start to experience burnout. So I feel like for Shipt, maybe more than other companies, employee experience was that much more important. And then another thing to know about Shipt is our culture is really amazing, but I think the pandemic showed us that we relied heavily on our in-office culture. And so we really had to step back and see what could we do. We had to rethink some things. But by bringing in a new learning and development platform, the Coolleaf platform, intentional team building and networking, we revise our quarterly goals and our career check-in process, focused on DE&I work. All these things we kind of brought together to maintain that culture that makes Shipt unique and makes folks want to hang around.
That's great. And I got ahead of myself a little bit there, but we really do want to talk about employee appreciation at Shipt. So in your opinion, how does employee appreciation impact your overall employee experience, and why is it important?
Yeah, so let's start by first kind of defining employee appreciation. For me, it's all about like a team member feeling like they're valued and recognized, to know that the contributions they're making are seen. And so one of the biggest things we did was formalizing recognition with Coolleaf. For Shipt, Coolleaf does a number of things, but some of my favorite, first, it makes those recognitions public. So one of my favorite things to do is just scroll through the Coolleaf homepage and see all these team members giving each other shout outs. It's these positive vibes. They feel so wonderful. And it's just this mood lift to read and see all the cool things that are going on. Second, it's kind of this public acknowledgement serves as like a reminder. So as I see those, I'm like, oh, I need to go give someone a shout out. And I think we're either competitive or we just don't want to be left out. I think it's contagious and everyone starts to recognize each other, and you really like start feeling the love. And then third, one of the things Coolleaf does that we were doing manually is it automates birthday and work anniversary reminders. And so team members are getting recognized for those things. It's not on a single person to remember to do those anymore. And then, by extension, no one's missed out a single date, or no date goes unnoticed. And so I think all those things, our teams love it. Like you can see, we have like 80% of our team members engaged month over month. So it's clear proof that they're really into the platform. But again, going back, I think the biggest thing is just the feeling that you get your work noticed. For me, that's employee appreciation, and it really drives retention. Nothing feels better than hearing something you've spent time and energy on matter to a team or your leader.
Yeah, definitely. Um, what are some of the other ways that you've encouraged employee appreciation at Shipt?
Yeah, so talked about Coolleaf, huge driver. And I think one of the things we tried to do was recreate some of those in-office perks. So we have a fantastic office team that started sending team members boxes once a month since basically the beginning of the pandemic. We deliver groceries, so we love snacks, and that was a big perk in our office. So we recreated that at home, and the first few boxes were just packed with snacks. But it's a super creative team, so they didn't settle there. Since they've done things like celebrating, sending a box full of Japanese snacks to coincide with our Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month celebration. Or recently, they did a self-care box that was completely supplied with items from small businesses. And then this month, the box will actually feature snacks from local businesses here in Birmingham. So those are really fun and creative. And then another example would be Customer Service Appreciation Week, which is coming up in October for those of you that are in this space. I have an incredible guy on my team who just has the biggest heart for people. Shout out to Jacob. He really took it upon himself to own Customer Service Appreciation Week for our contact center. He created a separate event for each day. And I really think these are things that you could leverage for any team. So some of the things he did was he created a thank you video from the exec team. So we used a tool like Tribute, which allows you to gather videos from all over and compile them into one. He also, for our contact center, it's made up of like smaller teams of 8 to 10 people. So we challenged them to use their next team meeting on Zoom to dress in a themed costume. And then we had them share a screenshot in Cooleaf. And then Coolleaf has this really cool interactive feature where you can upvote. And so the team that got the most votes won. So that was really neat to just see the creativity come to life and give people something to look forward to on their meeting. And then I think another thing was just asking the organization to say thanks to that contact center team. So by posting kind words or thoughts in Coolleaf, we used a common hashtag so you could see them. None of these are like a huge lift, but creating these moments was really engaging for our teams.
Yeah, I love how for Shipt, you guys really find ways to make recognition really fun. So it doesn't have to be like something that's a duty for the manager to recognize, and it's just like something that they have to check off a list. It's really like something that's part of the whole culture and fun for everyone to get involved in. So I thought that was a really great example. So let's talk more about the next driver, company culture. So the COVID pandemic really made it clear to employers and employees that work and life cannot be treated as two separate constructs anymore. So, what are some of the tactics that Shift is taking to build deeper connections with their employees and with supporting their team members?
Yeah, I mentioned our new quarterly check-in process. For sure, this covers things like our quarterly business goals and objectives, but we were really intentional about making this a check-in around like your whole self. So we encourage team members to bring every bit of themselves to work. We'll talk more about Shift values in a little bit, but one of those is authenticity, and it's defined as it's all about being true to yourself and accepting of others. And then, so what we did is we leaders are really encouraged to ask how life is outside of work. You're sitting on these Zoom calls to look directly at team members and just show them that you care and check in on them. And so I've seen leaders use Shipt to send care packages to a team member that's sick, or host Zoom parties for a team member that got engaged. And I think it's just impossible today to separate work and home life. I think we used to be afraid of it. We were scared in HR to bring those things together. But if leaders embrace the opportunity, it creates the ability to really make a team member feel connected and committed.
Yeah, that's great. And what are some of the other examples of ways that Shift has fostered employee connection and engagement?
Yeah, so with Ship's growth, our teams grew a lot too. And there's a lot of folks that join and they've never been to office and don't know many people. And so to prompt employees to get to know one another on like a one-to-one basis, we utilize this app called Donut. Donut randomly pairs you with another team member for a Zoom call. And it's just 30 minutes where you get together and you chat. And then we challenge team members to get involved through Coolleaf. And it's just cool to see how these 30 minutes you can make like real connections, whether it's like a shared love for houseplants. I saw our business development leader met with one of our contact center folks, and they're both holding up their houseplants in their photo. And it's just so cool to see how they've found these connections, and you make new friends that way. And the business is better for it too. So the leaders are hearing about things they would have never heard about if they had never talked to some of these individuals. And team members are advancing their careers by making connections. So it's gone beyond just getting to know someone. It's been a super powerful tool. And then another tool we're really big fans of is Slido. Slido allows you to create interactive moments in a meeting. And I think it was actually designed for in-person meetings, but it's worked so well for us during the pandemic. We've used it from everything from small 5-person meetings to our all hands, which is close to 1,000 plus people. And it allows you to create polls, quizzes, build word clouds on the spot. We have trivia contests, and it's just a super fun tool that gets team members engaged virtually in meetings. And then of course we reward our team members with Coolleaf points. So they always look forward to those trivia contests. And yeah, so I really recommend you check out Donut and Slido as well.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear about how you guys have used those tools really creatively. And yeah, I think it's so powerful how you guys have built like connections between employees, like little things like sharing your hobbies. Like we don't think that much about that being a really important part of work life, but it really is. It really helps people build more strong and meaningful connections. So yeah, I think that can be really powerful. And while we're talking about culture, I also wanted to talk about building a shared sense of purpose and meaning at work. How do you create a shared sense of purpose with your team members when they're not all together in the same physical location?
Yeah, so fun story here for Shipt. We were in the process of creating our new purpose and values when the pandemic hit. And we envisioned this like moment where we bring every team member together. And obviously COVID had other ideas. And so we were like, do we wait to roll these out? And our CEO really pushed us to do it. She was like, this can't wait. And I'm so glad we did now, like looking back, because when we were creating our purpose and values, it wasn't building something from scratch. It was about capturing all that we had felt and just putting it into words. So then once we rolled that out, it was really easy to point back to them and say, this is what Shipt culture is. For us, our purpose is to spark connections that show why every person counts. And so to answer your question, we create that shared sense of purpose by first defining it and then pointing out what it looks like to live that purpose. So we told stories, like really strong, powerful stories that brought some team members to tears. And I think it's getting that shared sense of belonging by being able to say, this is what it looks like to live it out. And then we didn't stop there. We made it a part of our career check-in. So we asked team members about the work they accomplished, but also how they accomplished the work. How did they live the values? And we want examples that speak to it. And by doing this, again, we're making it a continuous, just part of our narrative. And then once we had Coolleaf, we tied all of our recognitions to our values. So now every time you want to give someone a shout out, you frame it up in the terms of one of the values. And again, it's just that constant reminder, that constant display of what it actually looks like to live the values. And then one other thing that's really neat, Coolleaf gives us the opportunity to randomly, we pull recognitions for our all hands meetings. And so it's just a moment where we recognize 5 random people. And again, it's just putting those values in front of the team and saying, this is what it looks like to live these values. And of course, it also creates like a really special moment where team members connect and say, way to go, like, great job, Melissa. Like everybody sees that and connects with it.
That's great. When it comes to building these engagement programs and strategies, gathering feedback from employees and actually taking action on that feedback is so critical. So what are some of the ways that you encourage listening and taking action on employee feedback at Shipt?
Yeah, so as we were prepping for this call, I realized I'm a huge fan of listening programs. I've set one up in every single role I've had for the past 8 or 9 years. So way more important though than having the listening program, for sure, build one. But once you have it, is take action on it. So the most engaged teams I've ever seen, the most loved leaders, they took advantage of what the listening showed to them. I hate to see leaders stress team members to complete a survey and then never do anything with the results. So what I would recommend is find someone passionate about engagement and let them take the charge, whether it's informally or formally, it all works. Empower someone to take action and support them in the recommendations they bring to you. Even if you don't have a budget, there are things you can implement like team building and communication channels that will drive engagement. So absolutely build a listening program and then take action.
And the last key driver of employee retention that we want to focus on today is giving employees those opportunities to grow and upskill. So how do you support employee learning and growth at Shipt?
Yeah, so this is an area that we're really starting to invest in. Again, we're listening to the things that come out of our engagement surveys, and our team members they really want development. And so we're investing formally like in headcount to build programs, to lead training, to take full advantage. But you don't have to do that. Don't neglect smaller opportunities too. You can create a culture that is always upskilling. We made a professional development goal and increasing your DE and I acumen a part of the quarterly goals process I talked about. And they're seen as just as important as those business goals. So it's ingrained as a part of our culture. It's expected of all team members, and that signals to the entire organization that it's important. And I love how we've created diversity in the programs we offer. We're starting now to try to segment our employee population into cohorts and offer training and development relevant to where they are in their career. It's a little bit harder, it takes more effort, but I think the results are more impactful. And I'll tell a quick story. I shout out to one of our managers on our catalog team. All on his own, he created many challenges within his team. And some of them are like completing an e-learning course or learning a new coding language. And when his team members completed them, he rewards them in Cooleaf. And so I was scrolling through the recognitions the other day and I saw, congratulations on completing this SQL training. And so I reached out to the manager, I was like, hey, what's this all about? And he explained how he's using our LMS content and our recognition platform to develop his team. And it's so cool to just see leaders own that and prioritize that. So we brag on him and use him as an example all the time. But I think the lesson learned there is invest in the tools and then let people go crazy with how they use them. Put in some guardrails for sure. We're HR, we love rules, but don't be afraid to empower people to find new ways of working that maybe you didn't consider yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a really great lesson that we can all kind of take away here. The Shipt employees are just really creative. And I'm sure all of the people on this call today, you guys all have super creative employees as well. So I feel like, kind of taking that lesson from Shipt of just letting them kind of run with that creativity and finding ways to channel that can really just let people, soar with that is really awesome. So we love seeing that that on Shipt and how you guys have used Coolleaf and then these other tools to just let your managers kind of do their best work. So the final question that we have before we're going to dive into some of the live Q&A, I see there's some great questions coming in, but the final one of the questions that we have planned for us today is, Walt, what do you hope to see in a post-COVID workplace in regards to employee experience?
Yeah, post-COVID is something we're really thinking a lot about. I'm really excited about the future of work. I think we've learned a lot in the pandemic. We're still learning a lot. And now we have the opportunity to put these learnings into action. The biggest thing, everyone should go listen to this podcast, Priya Parker with Brene Brown from Brene's podcast, Dare to Lead. Priya talked about how for decades we gathered in ways that just didn't work for people anymore. They solved problems that we had decades ago. So rather than rushing back to that, stop, pause, and think about like, what have you enjoyed over the past year and a half? And what did you not enjoy? And then think about like, what do you do with that information? And so that's what we're asking our leaders to do now. And I think for me, what I really just want to see is like intentionality. Let's not continue doing these things that, we used to do, because let's be intentional about why we gather and when we gather and when we stay home. And if you consider the employee experience alongside the business needs to make those decisions, it's exciting for me as an employee experience person. We've never had this opportunity before, so let's make the most of it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Walt. And we do have a few questions coming in, and we're going to get to those in just a minute. I know we only have a few minutes left, so if you have to jump off, you will be redirected to a survey that we put together to get your thoughts on the content for today. So please, if you have a chance, just answer those questions. There's just a couple of them just to give us that feedback. It'd be really helpful. And then for you, we wanted to share this guide that we put together. So we're going to send this to all of you via email after the webinar today. So one of the best ways to get started on creating an employee retention strategy is to conduct kind of purposeful conversations with your employees around the reasons why they stay, because discovering that can really hyper-focus what's going well and what you might need to improve on. So in this quick guide, we're going to walk you through how to create one of those stay interviews with your employees. And we'd love to hear your feedback on this. So we'll be connecting with you to see, what did you think about this? We just want to hear if you guys have other strategies you're interested in learning more about. So look out for this in your inbox later today, and feel free to shoot us any questions. So let's get into the Q&A. There are a couple questions that have already come in. So the first question is from Carla about the application you mentioned, Walt. You mentioned Donut, and I think Slido was the other one. And do you have any more information on those or anything else to share?
Yeah, but both of those, Donut, D-O-N-U-T, you can Google, and Slido is S-L-I-D-O. I think they both have free versions. You can also upgrade to, commercial license. Again, just like be creative and have fun with it. That's the best thing you can do. Like, let your team members go wild with it.
That's awesome. And then I saw in the chat, there was a question about automated recognition, and is that meaningful? I think that's really interesting. It's a great question to ask. And I wanted to point out that, like, at least in the Coolleaf platform, the way it works is it is an automated birthday or work anniversary recognition. But what happens a lot of times that we find really meaningful and exciting is that because it's public, other people can see it and they comment and like it and, add funny gifs and that kind of thing. And that kind of adds meaning to it. So it's in addition to like the points and the automation, so you don't forget it, but also, it's public and people can kind of jump in. Did you have anything to add on that, Walt?
Yeah, I think so. For us, we had a Slack channel where we did this previously, and some people were in that channel, some people weren't. And I think Coolleaf people are going to Coolleaf for other reasons, and then they see that while they're out there. And so while they may not have noticed the birthday or the anniversary some other way, they see it because they're in Coolleaf for other reasons. And so, yeah, I think it just elevates. Again, it's like that public recognition where you get more love when everybody else can see it. So.
Yeah, and then one other question that we got in advance was is about employee onboarding. So most employees decide that they're going to stay or leave with the company within the first 60 to 90 days. They make that decision. So do you have any advice for that onboarding process?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it. Those first 30, 60, 90 days are so crucial. First impressions are so important. And we're actually revamping our onboarding process. It's next on the list for us. I think what we're trying to do is just create more interaction. It's been a lot of kind of one way. And so we're going to create more checkpoints in those first 90 days. And we talked about listening programs. We're evolving our listening program to give us more insights into that timeline so we can take action. And then I think the onus really is heavy on managers. They've got leaders. They've got to step up. That's a time where there's more on you as a leader, but make the most of it, and it will return rewards. It'll pay off in the long run.
Great. And there's another really great question that just came in from Jamie. They said, our teams believe that they're stronger together. With travel reopened, it's driving up their budget since they have multiple locations. And that's part of the pre-COVID culture when they had only one location. So they were asking, what are some of your thoughts, Walt, on making that mindset shift for the leadership team to support that digital employee engagement when you're maybe more used to having like that one physical location? So that was a great question. What are your thoughts on that, Walt?
Yeah, it brings to mind, we've had a couple of leadership meetings for like our VPs and our exec team even that have all had to be digital now that we would probably have done in person in the past. And so we put together a project team. We really focused on like more than just the agenda. Also, what do you do to make that fun and engaging? And yeah, for sure, you have to be more intentional, but I think it's setting aside the time and planning, which I'm not always the best at. So I get that's hard sometimes too, but the more you can spend prepping ahead of that digital meeting, then you can work things in that give team members a break, that make them excited to be there. Always end with a wine tasting. You can't go wrong.
I love that. And then we have one more question, and then we're a little bit over time, so we'll jump off after this one, but feel free to, shoot us emails afterward. We'll be following up with you to send the recording and everything. So happy to answer any other questions you have. But I thought this was a really good question too. Walt, they would like for you to just briefly summarize a little bit more about that values rollout process that you spoke a little bit about. Could you kind of tell us a little bit more about your values rollout?
Yeah, so obviously we're all working from home during the pandemic. We used one of our all hands meetings to share out the values. And what we did is we have a purpose that our CEO introduced, and then we have 5 values that different leaders within the team introduced. And for each value, they told a story. And so it was really cool to hear from different people, to hear stories, some of that I'd never heard before. And I was even involved in the process. And like I said, they brought them to life. And you heard things about people caring for one another and being there for one another. And you heard reminders of things like that had happened in Shipt's past that, were celebrated. And so from that moment, then we asked people to go into Coolleaf and recognize one another. And we said, pick a value and just tell somebody like, thanks for working on a project and you're living this value for me. And so it sparked this moment where everyone was kind of celebrating each other. And so it continued that conversation of like cool stories and cool moments. So there's been a lot of work. I think the values are something that are really easy to forget. Like you introduce them and you can forget them. And so that's something we push ourselves to do, is always find ways to weave them into that conversation.
That's awesome. Super powerful stuff. Thank you so much, Walt, for sharing all of these takeaways with us. We really value you sharing your time. And thank you to everyone who joined today. Really appreciate it. If you have a few minutes, please answer that survey that you're going to be redirected to. And I think that's it. So have a great day, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed this and that you learned a lot. Bye.
Thanks, Melissa. Bye, y'all.